On the Market.
We are back on the market, Ontario's real estate show, and it's time to switch gears and we will focus our attention on the rental market. Asif.
We are, and we have Giacomo Ladas back from Rentals.ca. Giacomo, welcome back to On the Market.
Hey, thanks, guys. Always great chatting with you, too.
Giacomo, before we look at 2025, let's do a recap of 2024. What was the rental market like overall in 2024?
Yeah, I think overall the rental market has really softened across most parts of the country, and this is following, of course, record-breaking growth in 2022 and 2023. And also in those years, we saw multi-decade highs in apartment completions, which is great because we needed a lot more supply, but also we saw a slowdown in population growth and, of course, unfortunately, a weakening economy. And because of that, what we saw in 2024 was really the start of a renter's market where asking rents in most of Canada's major cities saw quite large decreases. And on top of that, we started to see the return of move-in incentives. Of course, this is when landlords or property managers are now offering and enticing renters to come to their building, such as free month's rent. Sometimes they're giving out free gym memberships, free internet or cable. So it's really become a renter's market now where we're starting to see demand slow down a little bit. We started to see a slowdown through population growth and the weakening economy, unfortunately, of people having less money. And because of that, it's actually a little bit more favorable now if you're looking to get an apartment, if you're a renter.
Are you surprised by that?
I think I'm surprised just at how quickly it happened. I think Calgary is a really good example. As early as February, March, April of 2024, Calgary was seeing double digit annual rent increases. And then that completely flipped where throughout 2024, Calgary actually had the largest decrease in asking rents of 7.2%. So it happened really quick. I think what's surprising to me is just how quickly renter preferences have changed, and they're not really going back, I don't think. Secondary markets have really increased. The deprioritization of living in downtown cores is still strong. If you asked me a couple of years ago, I would assume when we can go back in the office and go back and living in these downtown cities, people are going to go. It hasn't really happened as fast as I thought. And because of that, we've really seen a leveling off of asking rents across the country where secondary markets are now increasing and then these primary markets are coming down. So it's quite interesting.
It is. And also, I think the commuters or the way people commute has really allowed them to move a little bit further from the city itself. Go Transit is better right across the province. We've got, improved busing systems like Viva throughout York Region. How much of that plays a role in people maybe living 10 or 15 minutes away from work?
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. And we were actually even seeing the extreme of that where rent, when it increased so dramatically over the last few years, people were still willing to commute to the office a couple days a week, even if that was 2.5 hours away, because they were still saving so much rent living in Burlington as opposed to living in downtown Toronto. So, yes, the accessibility of going into the office again is huge. We are really starting to see that prioritization where renters are not going to pay these premium rents in this economy unless they have to. And if they don't have to, through an improvement in transportation, they're not going to. So I think that's a huge part, and it's a good thing because we needed this. We needed supply to increase in primary and secondary markets. We needed a large influx in transportation services to connect everyone together. So in one way, I think that's a really good thing.
Are there areas that have greater rent availability at this time? And what is that average rent across the GTHA?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And what we're really seeing right now, the average rent right now in Toronto for a one bedroom is around the $2,300 to $2,400 a month range. In the two bedroom right now is just over about $3,000. And that is about a 6 to 7% decrease from the same time last year. What we are seeing is an increase in vacancy rates across the country. So that means there's more just empty units available. And we are starting to see turnover rates increase a little bit because what's happening now is if you are an in-place renter and you're starting to see rent prices coming down, well, maybe I'll move to a different apartment now because it's become more of a market where, hey, if I move to this apartment, I can get free internet and save a month or two of rent. So we're now seeing property managers and landlords really prioritize keeping that in place renter because it's become a little bit more of a friendlier market for a renter. But what we're seeing right now is areas like Alberta really increase the amount of supply. You know, Alberta's a lot faster in getting shovels to the ground and bringing new supply. So that place has really skyrocketed, as well as it's seeing the biggest effects of a decrease in demand because Alberta was calling and a lot of people from Toronto went. They're not going as fast anymore because they're not calling anymore. So we're really seeing Calgary bring in supply a lot faster. Montreal has seen a really increase in supply coming to the market. And we're also seeing it in Toronto as well. You know, you really can't go anywhere without seeing cranes coming to the market. But what has changed big time is we are shifting from condos being built to purpose built rentals. And we are seeing the type of purpose built rentals change where people either want right now, and we're seeing it on our site, they want a studio apartment because it's the cheapest, but they're also wanting the biggest apartments, like a 3 bedroom the most because people are not buying homes either. So when they're looking for a rental, especially a first time renter, you're actually looking to be here for a long time. So they want the biggest space available. So we're starting to see personal rentals come into the market. Condo prioritization is really going down, and the need for 3 bedrooms is really starting to increase, and we're starting to see that reflected, which is, I think, a really good thing as well. And not only are 3 bedrooms good for a family wanting to stay there for a long time, but me and two of my buddies can rent that apartment and split the rent 3 ways. So it's another good thing that we're starting to see.
I just have a follow-up question just before we pass things over to Asif. How hard are those three-bedroom condos to find?
They're not easy to find. What we are seeing just on our site is purpose-built rentals have remained pretty stable in asking rents over the last few months, where the condos and the townhomes are seeing the steepest drops. Um, I'm assuming they were built to sell. They're not selling. So these investors are trying to recoup some of their losses quicker, and their asking rents are a little bit more favorable. So it's really in these townhomes and these condos that are seeing quite large decreases in asking rents, where personal rentals are staying pretty stable.
And Giacomo, if you were to look at that list,
Yeah.
what would be two surprises that jump out to you, both, you know, the ones that increase the most and maybe the ones that decrease the most? What would be two surprises that you found in the report?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think you know, if we want to stick in Toronto here, I think I'm surprised that all through 2024, when we looked at the list, rental prices in Toronto were going down. I think in the totality, I thought it might be just in January, February, March, but then throughout the summer, rents continued to decrease when typically that was the peak rental season, and rents continued to go down. So, you know, what really stands out to me in areas like Toronto, it's maintained 6, 7, 8% annual decreases throughout all through 2024. And this is for studio, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. It wasn't just one type of rental, all of them were going down in prices. I was pretty surprised to see areas out east. Halifax demand has been really strong. They were still seeing double digit rent increases of 10, 11% for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. We were starting to see it as well as we move farther away from Toronto. Areas like Niagara Falls has seen a large increase in rents for 1 and 2 bedrooms of 7, 8 to 12% in some cases. We are seeing a ton of people come in the Niagara region from Toronto, move down to Niagara because there's been a ton of new development there. So demand is really increasing. I think also it's kind of interesting to note that Winnipeg, even though the asking rents in Winnipeg for a 1 bedroom apartment is $1,300 a month, that's an 18% increase from this time last year. So even though it's a big major city and rents are a lot more affordable as opposed to other areas across the country, it shows that demand has still been strong and people are still willing to go to these, I don't want to say secondary cities, but they really are in some way. They're not the Torontos or Vancouvers. They're willing to go if rent is cheaper. And I think that's going to continue throughout 2025. The resilience of Edmonton, still seeing 10% increase for a 1 bedroom apartment. The resilience of Winnipeg, Quebec City, these areas that are more affordable, people are now going there and prioritizing it pretty strong. So What I'm expected to see throughout 2025 is people are probably going to slowly come back to these downtown metro areas, the Torontos, Vancouvers, because rents are now more affordable, and I expect them to slowly come back. But these secondary markets and these provinces like out east or Calgary, where rents are still pretty competitive, I'm very interested to see what happens there because I think as demand kind of slows down through migration internationally, but also through international immigrants, I'm going to see where people are going to go because I think they're going to still go to the more affordable markets throughout 2025.
Giacomo, always great to have you on. Good to see you again, and we'll chat with you again next month.
I look forward to it, and hopefully we have some more good news for renters out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Giacomo.
Thanks, guys.
On the Market.